Hey, Fort Lee, it's Mayor Mark. I hope everybody's doing well. Today's video is going to talk about people exercising their First Amendment rights, and we're also going to start talking about reopening of businesses here in Fort Lee. But first, today, Thursday, June 4, I want to give everybody an update. We have 495 positive cases, which is not an increase, a zero increase since last I reported to you. We have done an incredible job. We are the envy of Bergen County on how we've controlled our numbers. Folks ask us all the time, how did we do it? And my answer is simple. We have a town that's conscientious, that cares about themselves and cares about one another. And that's why we are stopping this spread. So great job, Fort Lee. Please don't get complacent. Please keep up the good work, but we're doing our part, which is super exciting. Next, I want to talk to you about the protests that you've been hearing about. This is Fort Lee, New Jersey. We're an important place. We're the gateway community to New Jersey, host community to the George Washington Bridge, and protests, we believe, are going to be inevitable here. People have a constitutional right to exercise their First Amendment rights and to protest and to gather safely and in an orderly fashion. In fact, that's going to happen in Fort Lee. We support it. We encourage it, and we're going to make sure that it's done safely. Now, there are going to be two types of protests. Those that happen organically, our own residents putting together a protest, and we know of two right now that I'm going to tell you about. And then there are the protests and the marches that happen in other towns, but their route will take them either through Fort Lee or end up in Fort Lee. Firstly, there are two protests and marches that are going to happen on Sunday and Monday. On Sunday at approximately 1 o'clock, there will be a Black Lives Matters march. It's going to start at Hudson Lights, and it's going to, as of now, go down into Leonia. That's scheduled to start at around 1 o'clock on Sunday, which is June 7. And that's been organized by a resident here in the borough. Then Fort Lee High School students have also organized another march that's scheduled for Monday, June 8, starting at 1 o'clock also. That's going to start at Fort Lee High School, and that route hasn't been established yet. What happens is these folks work with our police department, and we just make sure that the route is safe and it's orderly, and that either the marchers or other people are not put in harm's way due to traffic and things of that nature. So the route for the Fort Lee High School march that's scheduled for Monday has not been established, but it's going to start at Fort Lee High School. Let me be very, very clear with you. There are absolutely no nefarious intent with either of these protests. These are folks that are well-meaning, wonderful, law-abiding, and they have an issue that they need to bring to light and they need to support. And Fort Lee is going to stand by their side and make sure that that's done in an orderly and safe fashion. As we get more information, we'll let you know. But again, there are also other protests and marches that are starting in other towns. For example, on Saturday, there's a large march that's scheduled to take place starting in North Bergen. We don't know exactly what the route is, but that might come up to Fort Lee. We don't know yet. As we know, you will know. Fort Lee, we now need to start talking about reopening, and this is very, very important. And there are a lot of businesses that are going to start to reopen during the month of June. What's critically important is that you stay on top of what businesses are opening and also acknowledge and understand there's going to be a lot of restrictions on all of these businesses. Always check with Fort Lee's website, but also check with the state website, which is also important. That website is covid19.nj.gov. Another important tool so that you are kept informed is making sure that you subscribe to the state's Nixle, because you'll be alerted of reopenings of businesses, and you'll be alerted as to what's happening and when it's happening immediately. Here in Fort Lee, you get our announcements for our community by texting 07024 to 888-777. As a matter of fact, there are thousands of people that subscribe to our Nixle because the information is pretty much the same from community to community. But as far as business openings, you should subscribe to the state's Nixle, and you get that by texting NJ COVID to 898-211. Now, with regard to Fort Lee specifically, with heavy heart, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have the summer camp this year. We have about 700 kids a year that participate. It's one of the most popular, well-run camps in the state. It's just going to be impossible to do and comply with all the restrictions. We can't exceed groups of 15. We need to have a nurse at every location, so forth and so on. It's just not feasible or possible. So summer camp, unfortunately will be canceled. We join a very long list of other towns and communities in Bergen County that have also canceled their summer camp. None of those camps are nearly as big as ours. It was just too much of a task. It was almost impossible to comply with. As far as pools are concerned, we're asked about that quite a bit. The public pools, the spray parks, and also the large pools that are at all of our high-rise buildings are controlled by the same body of law. Now, that law is a state law and is controlled by the governor and the legislature. We're not aware of any intentions to open pools as of yet. However, once we find out about that information, we will certainly let you know. Once pools are ready to be opened in Fort Lee, we're going to get our pools and spray parks ready and open them. As far as the high rises, that'll be a high rise by high rise decision. Now, as far as business reopenings, there are a slew of businesses, and again, check those websites and the nixle that I provided to you. However, as far as businesses, on June 15, child care centers will be allowed to be open, subject to many restrictions. There'll be outdoor dining permitted as of June 15, but again, subject to many restrictions. Outdoor dining, for example, is subject to you can't go inside the restaurant except to go to the bathroom or access the outside dining area. The 6-foot rule will apply. There'll be constant disinfection, no more than 8 people to a table, so forth and so on. Our Fort Lee BDA is working with all of these businesses to make sure that they're familiar with the guidelines, and they're also going to be providing them with signage to make sure that all of these businesses comply with these rules and regulations. Another big one, non-essential retail can open on a limited basis as of June 15, subject to many restrictions. One of them will be that the store can't take more than 50% of its maximum capacity. There also has to be social distancing, so forth and so on. In addition, Fort Lee Borough Hall will start to reopen as of June 15, so folks can start to come here and do business, whether it's taxes, municipal court. It's going to be a gradual process, but that process will start on June 15, and we'll be certain to update our website so you know what's available and what isn't available. Houses of worship, as of June 12, they'll be lightening those restrictions and be able to increase the folks that are able to attend, but again, subject to guidelines, and you have to check the websites that I've referred to. Now, on those websites, there are a list of many other businesses that are closed and other businesses that will reopen. So when you check the website, you'll find out, for example, barbershops and hair salons may reopen as of June 22. Again, subject to restriction. You'll also know that a lot of other businesses that have been closed will remain closed. There's also a listing of all the businesses that have been open and will continue to be open, from grocery stores to gasoline stations. There are too many to go through on this video. I'm just asking you in Fort Lee, please refer to those websites. Please subscribe to the state's nixle service and make sure you're aware of what businesses are open, because we want to make sure you get back to those stores in Fort Lee and start to patronize those businesses. So again, Fort Lee, get ready. Folks are going to start to exercise their First Amendment rights, and we're going to do it in a safe and orderly way here in the borough of Fort Lee. Businesses are starting to reopen, which is great news. And again, thank you so much for helping to stop the spread. We have become a model community on how to do it, and it's not because of us, it's because of you. You're conscientious, and we love one another, and that's why we're doing our job to help stop the spread. Cannot thank you enough.